Hello everybody, welcome to LB 270. I'm Dr. Jerry Urquhart and I will be your instructor for the semester. LB 270 focuses on medical terminology to prepare you for a career in medical fields or in research. Course is to provide future medical professionals with an in-depth exposure to the terminology that's used in the medical field. We want to make sure that you have the ability to properly utilize this information and this terminology, because in reality this is a place where learning the material has life and death consequences. We're going to spend part of the course focusing on learning medical terms and applying them, and part of it focusing on how we see medical terms in both research literature as well as in public discourse such as news media and television. Your teaching staff for this semester include myself, Dr. Jerry Urquhart, and Michael Vu, who is a undergraduate student in Lyman Briggs College. We both will have office hours. Mine will be on Tuesday afternoon. His will be on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. And we can always set up additional office hours if those don't work for you. Give you a little bit of background as to who I am. I graduated from Lyman Briggs College and then got my PhD at University of Michigan. This is my 27th year teaching in Lyman Briggs College. And I have a joint appointment in Fisheries and Wildlife where I do research on tropical rainforests. And you can see the photos on the right are photos I took in the rainforest in Nicaragua. The first is flying over top of it. The second is one that was taken through a camera trap that we put in a remote area of the rainforest, and that's a jaguar that walked past the camera. I have a big interest in natural history and learning about the basics of how different things in science work, and I really get into the ideas of medical terminology because of this, because I think our understanding of the nomenclature that we use in science is very important. As far as things I do for fun, I am an avid fisherman and bird watcher. I do a lot of fly fishing. I also do a lot of bird watching, and sometimes do spin fishing. I aspire to be a gourmet cook, and my wife is quite happy with the things I cook, so that's all that's important. And I have two sons. They're 25 and 27 years old. And I'm going to tell you a story about one of my sons in just a moment. So you will see here.
12 feet, step number 3, standards 31.5.
This is my younger son, Benjamin, vaulting, pole vaulting in high school. This is my son, Benjamin, later that year, running on a beach. And diving into the water. So we dropped him off at college later that summer, and they had a couple days before classes started. So we went to a fraternity rush event on a lake where he tried something similar. He ran into the water. When it got to about thigh deep, he tripped and jumped forward, but this time he hit his head on the bottom. And it had some consequences. He called us and said, "I think I broke my neck," which we said, it's very unlikely you broke your neck. You probably just hurt yourself a little bit. So he then continued to do things the rest of the afternoon after we convinced him that he hadn't broken his neck. Rode around in a boat that was bouncing over waves as they were doing wakeboarding and things like that. Then rode his bike to the campus health clinic. When he arrived there, they immediately put him in a neck brace and immobilized him on a gurney and rushed him to Massachusetts General Hospital. At this point in time, the pain was getting worse in his neck, and he was starting to get quite worried. He was lucky that on call, this is Labor Day weekend, there was a world-class neurosurgeon who was a professor at Harvard University, and that professor called us to talk to us about what our son needed. And he essentially told us, your son has broken his neck and needs emergency surgery called ACDF. And he said, just look that up and you'll find some information about it. So as we were waiting to fly to Boston the next morning, I did some research on that, and ACDF stands for anterior cervical discectomy fusion. Okay, so these are some words that you will learn in this course. Anterior means from the front. Cervical refers to the neck part of the spinal cord or spinal column. Discectomy. So you've heard of an appendectomy, that's where they remove your appendix. Well, a discectomy is when they remove a disc. And then fusion refers to fusing the vertebrae above and below that disc that was removed. So if you look here, there's 2 screws and a plate put in to stabilize C4 and C5 vertebrae, and then they put a piece of bone from a cadaver in between those and drilled holes into each of those vertebrae and into the cadaver bone in hopes that the 3 pieces would fuse together. And after 2 months, they were successfully fusing together. He was able to take his neck brace off. But he actually walked out of the hospital 4 days later in a neck brace, missed 1 day of classes, and went on to excel in classes and do well in college while wearing a neck brace for the first 6 weeks. As I mentioned, after 2 months there had been substantial healing, so he got out of the neck brace. But then he was at a party and somebody decided to crowd surf, landed right on top of his head, and actually broke the piece of cadaver bone that was in there. Didn't dislodge it, so they were able to let it heal again, but it was back into the neck brace for another 6 weeks. And he then had to wear the neck brace for another 6 weeks. But after a while, he was actually able to go back to pole vaulting and resume all normal activities. So miracles of modern medicine, and an example of where learning and understanding medical terminology can really help you even in everyday life, but especially for those of you considering medical careers, it will definitely be of use. So what do we have in this course? So there are short recorded video lectures on each chapter that I've prepared. A majority of the work is done through an online platform called MindTap that you get through Cengage, and there's a link on D2L that will take you to that and allow you to purchase the software and an online PDF version of the book. Okay. There are 5 exams during the semester. They'll cover 20 chapters, so 4 chapters each. There's 2 short writing projects and a discussion board project. And then the MindTap homework and pronunciation assignments. So each chapter, there will be some assignments that count toward your grade and some that do not. So those assignments will count toward your grades, but then there are practice exams and other activities that do not count toward your grade, but we encourage you to do to prepare yourself for the actual exams. So how do you do this to get engaged with MindTap? You go through D2L and you click on the MindTap Access link. And you'll use that platform to study. And as I said earlier, the pronounce is required, and then there are other homework assignments for each chapter. Others are practice, and you'll see right underneath it, it'll tell you whether it counts toward your grade. So week 1, we have a discussion board assignment. That's going to be due next Tuesday. You have 4 chapters to learn and do the MindTap homework assignments. Those are also due next Tuesday. And then the first exam is next Wednesday. It is an online exam done through D2L and will be available from midnight Tuesday night to midnight Wednesday night. So you have to essentially do it on Wednesday. You'll have 90 minutes to complete the exam, but if you have an extended time provision, please reach out to me and I will make accommodations. So the MindTap homework, as I said, each chapter is going to have some graded assignments. The Pronounce chapter counts toward 5 points of your final grade for each chapter, so 100 total points, or 1/10 of your final grade. And then the other assignments will count toward 5 points total, and each one will be scaled toward to count toward your grade. The first assignment is done through a discussion board on D2L, and it's called the Medical Terminology Discussion Board. And you're going to find something in the Journal of American Medical Association or the New England Journal of Medicine. And you will find an article with a particularly jargon-laden sentence. So jargon is like medical terminology that normal people might not understand. All right. You do not need to pay for any articles. Really, the way to access them is to go through the MSU library site, and as long as you're logged into your MSU account, you will be able to access articles in these two journals for free. So how this will work is you will start a new thread, title it with your name and the entry from either New England Journal of Medicine or Journal of American Medical Association. Then you paste the sentence that you found that's heavy in jargon into the post, along with a citation of the article following MLA format. After you do that, you go to the thread immediately previous to yours. In a reply to their entry, you translate that into common English, what their sentence and their entry was. Then you will figure out how many words, characters, and average characters per word there were in both sentences, and how many additional words were required to say it in common English. Then you'll return to your thread and write a short description about the differences between the medical terminology and common English. You have to do step 3 after somebody else has already done step 2 for you, so you'll have to wait a little while. Don't leave this assignment till the last minute. Okay, and there are 5 exams. They're very heavily vocabulary focused, 100 questions over 90 minutes. Exam 1, May 20th, so next week. May 27th, June 3rd, June 10th, and then we skip a week in the final exam. It's not a final, actually. It's exam 5 is on June 24th. There is no cumulative final exam, so each of these is just over the particular chapters. There are going to be 2 short writing assignments, and I will give you details on these later in the course. And with that, next step for you will be to read the syllabus, and then come see me or ULAs during office hours. Those will be on Zoom if you have any questions. You can always reach out to me by email as well. So, welcome to Medical Terminology, and I look forward to working with you during the summer.